The staff says, feel free to enjoy. So he eats like a king only to learn feel free does not mean free. Have you ever had one of those moments where you wish the ground would just swallow you whole? Well, let me tell you about a time that I experienced that feeling, dialed up to 11. It all started with an invitation to a super fancy, high-end art gallery opening. I'm talking champagne flutes, tiny sculptures, and people talking in hushed, important-sounding tones. I felt a bit like a fish out of water, honestly. I'm more of a pizza on necoach kind of guy. As I wandered around, trying to look like I understood the abstract art, my stomach started rumbling. Loudly. Just then, a staff member with a warm smile glided past me with a tray of what looked like the most delicious appetizers I had ever seen. There were mini quiches, shrimp cocktails, and these little puff pastry things that smelled like heaven. Seeing my desperate, hungry face, the staff member leaned in and said, with the kindest voice, "Feel free to enjoy." And folks, that's where my brain decided to take a vacation. In my world, feel free and free food are basically the same thing. My eyes lit up. I thought, this is it. This is the perk of hanging out with the rich and famous. So I didn't just enjoy. I embarked on a culinary quest. I took a mini quiche, then another. Then I flagged down a different server with a tray of what looked like tiny beef Wellingtons. "Feel free to enjoy," he said. "Don't mind if I do. I was on a roll. I tried everything." The salmon blinis devoured. The prosciutto-wrapped melon, gone in 60 seconds. The cheese platter, I didn't just sample. I became a connoisseur. I was describing the nutty undertones of the aged cheddar to a confused-looking woman in a sequin dress. I was a king, and this gallery was my kingdom of canaps. I even started getting adventurous, pairing a shrimp with a dollop of something from the dessert table. It was a bold move, I know, but I was feeling invincible. I must have eaten my body weight in awe. Derves. I was making friends, not because of my sparkling personality, but because I was always near the kitchen doors, ready to pounce on the next tray. I was having the time of my life. The art was fine, I guess. But the food was a masterpiece. I was convinced this was the best gallery opening in the history of all gallery openings. For about an hour, I lived in this blissful, food-filled paradise. I was so full I could barely walk. I found a quiet corner to sit down and bask in the glory of my feast. I was feeling pretty smug, thinking about how I'd totally cracked the code to high society events. The secret, clearly, was to go straight for the buffet and never look back. I was already planning my strategy for the next event. But then, the evening started to wind down. People were saying their goodbyes, collecting their coats. I figured it was my time to make a graceful, albeit very full, exit, so I was heading for the door. The same staff member who first offered me the food, my culinary guardian angel, approached me again. This time, she wasn't holding a tray. She was holding a small, sleek tablet and a credit card machine. She smiled that same warm smile and said, "I hope you enjoyed everything, sir. We can settle the bill for you now." I just stared at her. My brain did a full-on system reboot. The bill? What bill? I thought she was joking. I let out a little chuckle. The bill. "Oh, that's a good one," I said, waiting for her to laugh along. She didn't. Her smile just stayed put, patient and professional. "Sir," she said gently, "the refreshments are charged per item. I have your tab right here." She turned the tablet toward me. My heart didn't just sink. It plummeted into the abyss where my stomach used to be before it was filled with $1,000 worth of tiny snacks. The screen was filled with a long, long list. Mini quiche X12, shrimp cocktail X15, artisanal cheese selection. The list went on and on and on. The total at the bottom had a comma in it, a comma, for appetizers. The blood drained from my face. I looked around wildly, hoping to find an escape route, a fire exit, a wormhole to another dimension. Nothing. All the important-looking people I had been mingling with were now looking at me, This rando who had just eaten the gallery's entire food budget. The woman in the sequin dress was definitely smirking. I tried to explain, but you said feel free to enjoy, I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. She nodded, her smile never wavering. Yes, sir. You were free to enjoy anything you liked from the menu. We just add it to your tab. It was at that moment I learned a very, very expensive lesson in linguistics. Feel free does not mean free. It means feel free to spend an amount of money that could finance a small car. I had no choice. I slowly, painfully took out my credit card. The beep of the machine was the saddest sound I've ever heard. It was the sound of my bank account weeping. As I did the walk of shame out of that gallery, I swore two things to myself. First, I would never attend another fancy event without first confirming the financial status of the snacks. And second, I would probably be eating instant noodles for the next 6 months to pay off my debt to tiny, delicious beef Wellingtons. So, the next time you hear those magical words, feel free to enjoy. Maybe just take a moment. Pause. Ask a clarifying question, like free as in speech or free as in beer. Because trust me, it's a misunderstanding you can't afford to make. I learned a hard way that the most expensive things in life are sometimes the ones you think are free. And that's my story of how I became the king of the K-naps, and then the jester of the bill. It was a night to remember for all the wrong reasons. Thanks for listening to my tale of woe. If you've ever had a similar mortifying moment, drop it in the comments below so I don't feel so alone. And if you like stories about my spectacular failures, give me a like and subscribe for more. See you next time.